in my composition classes, reading really is the most essential task that I ask students to engage with. It's from readings that we gain concepts that we use to think about texts and ideas and writing and process and all that good stuff. It's also from readings that we make observations about style that we either critique or celebrate, but through that decision-making process, choose what stylistic elements we value and so adopt into our own writing. It's also in the reading, of course, that we find the evidence that we need to build up the ideas in our essays. So for me, teaching online, the challenge has been, number one, how do I position reading in a way that students see there's relevance to engaging with that reading as they go about these to-do items? In other words, how do I set reading up and integrate it into the assignments in a way that they don't just skip to completing the assignment, right? How do I vitalize a reading process? And then, so along those lines, secondly, how do I develop some kind of accountability that motivates students to engage consistently with reading, but also gives me a window into their reading process so I can intervene. So I want to share two approaches that I've developed in two different classes I've taught online. One is a reading journal, which I created by hijacking Canvas's discussion tool. And the second is a weekly assignment that asks students to reflect on the week's work and to sort of translate everything we've looked at into their own words. Okay, so first let me show you what the reading journal looks like in my English 100 class. So in this class, I call the reading journal a common book, I give two spaces, one for notes, one for reflections. They work the same, so I'll show you notes. And what this looks like for students when they log in is basically a discussion post, only they're the only one who has access to it. And then so there's some quick instructions at the top for what to do with the lectures and the readings that are assigned week by week. And students simply click reply to upload their notes. And this space just becomes a continuous stream of all the different notes they take as they go about readings throughout the semester. They're able to upload typed notes. They can upload sort of screenshots of annotations. They can even upload handwritten notes. Okay, so this becomes a space where, again, I can see that how they're engaging with readings. There's really some basic requirements, but otherwise I give them lots of models of different ways to take notes, including audio recording. Some of my students enjoy doing that, just using Canvas's media tool, right? That one. And what's also really cool about this space is it's searchable, right? So for students who are typing, they can Control F and try to find something. So if we read something at the beginning of the semester and they wrote notes about it here, that becomes accessible. So for those who are typing, that's a bonus. And then handwritten notes too. So for students for whom processing ideas in reading is more tactile and kinetic, basically this is a space where they're just sharing with me. They're not even really working in here. They hardly ever come back here to look at their notes. Their notes exist in a notebook offline, or margin notes and annotations that they're using some device and software to build, and that's their space. This is just for me to sort of look in at. So I look at this 3 times throughout the semester. I offer feedback on their process. I encourage them to think about how the reading is helping build those larger assignments, and encouraging them to experiment with a process that eventually feels very unique to themselves. So let me show you how to create this. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a group assignment, and it's a group of 25, 27 groups with one person in each group. That's the basic idea. So what you can do is you can create a group set, call this group set reading journal. I'll create the groups manually, don't allow self sign up, save. So now you've got a group called reading journal. And then when you're in this space, you'll see all of your students listed. And so what you do then is you just create as many groups as you need. You say, this is Curry's journal, click save. And then, if you've got 25 students, you're creating 25 groups. Eric's journal, Susanna's journal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then once you've got all your students listed out, you click add to group or just drag and drop, right? And now the person who is in this group is, sorry, me. Okay, so once you have this listed out, the next step is to create a discussion. You are going to, just as you do for every discussion, create a discussion. We'll call it reading journal. You can add your instructions. And the key part is you want to call this a group discussion. And the group set you are going to is going to be reading journal. And if you want to tinker with some of this stuff, you can, but you don't have to. Once you save and publish it, this now becomes an assignment, and you can see that each student has access to the group they've been placed in this assignment. And if you've listed out 25 names, you'll see 25 names, and they'll only have access to their discussion space. They won't be able to see each other's work. Okay, so that's how I hijack discussions in Canvas to create a reading journal. Let me show you. This one will be more quick. Something I do in my sentence crafting class that gives me that same kind of lens into how they're reading. So here's English 40. Let me click student view so you can see what it looks like from their perspective. I structure this class, which looks at style and diction and syntax, conventions and concepts for crafting sentences. I structure this week by week around a different concept or a different convention. What I ask students to do, most everything, quizzes, just, collaborative activities, reading and reflections, these are all due on Thursdays. I recommend doing it throughout the week, but the deadline is Thursday. So all work is completed by Thursday. But then on Sunday, so a few days after work has been completed, I ask them to come back to the course, review what they've submitted, and post a final sort of metacognitive reflection on the concepts and conventions and their work that week in their own words, right? So I have created a page that links to every week's in your own words tasks, right? So this gives a layer of metacognition within a week. There's some reflection and some interpretation at the end of the week, but then within a semester there can be a recursive sort of experience with, here's what I was thinking last week, here's what I was thinking about this concept then, here's how I'm evolving, right? So so this is a lens into how students are grappling with the course, asking questions, developing ideas, etc. The basic instruction, so week by week, I list everything out on one page. This is also sort of duplicated in modules, but this is what the assignment looks like simply. It's not a discussion board, it's just an assignment. So they'll only have access to theirs, but it's not all in one space like in my English 100 class. Instead, it's sort of listed in links on a page they can get back to everything. There's some problems with that, but I think it's overcomplicated to put all this in one space just for this class. So here's the basic steps. It's kind of summarize the concept for the week, provide a sort of a story that links that concept to their kind of lived experience with language, provide a few different examples, and again, all of these are really things they've already created and uploaded throughout the other activities throughout the week. So this is nothing new. These are prompts that ask them to go back to the assignments they've submitted, sort of do some translating, do some summarizing, do some inference, and then kind of, through these sort of 5 different elements I'm asking for, recast the week in their own words. This is a really helpful lens for me, especially because it's a space for them to kind of say, this wasn't clear, I'm bored now, let's do something different, I'd really like to look at something else. And it's also a way for me to ensure that I'm not creating sort of, I'm not imposing upon them standards of language that don't resonate, right? This is a space where they get to reconfigure and determine on their own what their goals are with language, what they value in language, and sort of challenge the other bits. So I hope that's helpful. So 2 ways to encourage students to see the relevance of reading, to engage with reading, and then to intervene in their processes of thinking about reading in a composition class taught online.